Well, see, Meghan, when she's not invited, she often turns up anyway, and she's just there and stays there. But this time, she obviously didn't dare.
Well, I'm not really surprised at this at all because, let's be honest, Meghan was a D-list actress before she met Prince Harry. And well, their massive break into Hollywood has, in a nice way, it hasn't gone as planned. She's had friends deserting her left, right and centre. She's fallen out with people such as Katie.
Meghan wanted the spotlight, but what she got was pure humiliation crashing down on her like shattered glass. The Emmy party move that was supposed to scream power ended up exposing exactly how little Hollywood thinks of her these days. Forget glamour. The whispers and the booze-fueled shade in that room told the real story. Markle had planned this like a military operation, another look-at-me stunt, carefully staged to prove she still belonged in the same league as Hollywood's brightest. But the execution was nothing short of disastrous. Instead of admiration, she walked straight into a wall of cold shoulders and sharper tongues.
I would have made quite sure that she didn't come in. And you can see how her friends are dropping her once upon a time friends, who she used very usefully professionally, that don't want anything.
The HBO Max Emmy nominee celebration wasn't just a party, it was the party. The kind of room where the industry's true heavyweights gather, where relevance is measured not by words, but by who actually welcomes you in. And here's the kicker. The second Meghan glided into that glittering ballroom, the atmosphere didn't just shift, it froze. All eyes turned, not with awe, but with disbelief, like Hollywood itself was silently asking, why is she here?
She's fallen out with people such as Katy Perry. You know, it's been very...
Instead of the polite nods and fake smiles Meghan probably expected, the very first sounds that greeted her were groans and whispers. And let's be clear, these weren't subtle. People noticed her all right, but in the exact opposite way she had scripted in her head. The vibe was sour from the jump, and every step she took seemed to make it worse. At the prime tables, where Emmy-nominated producers and heavyweight writers sat, the tension finally snapped.
That major Hollywood power brokers are no longer answering Meghan Markle's phone calls personally.
One voice cut through the room, muttering just loud enough for everyone nearby to catch, "Oh no, not her." That single remark hit like a spark in a dry forest. Suddenly, it wasn't just a comment, it was a ripple. Heads twisted, eyebrows shot up, conversations froze mid-sentence as the air shifted from glitzy to icy in seconds. And then came the moment Meghan will never forget. The first round of boos. Yes, actual boos aimed at a woman who once basked in palace fanfare and Hollywood red carpets. That sound didn't just sting, it shattered the illusion she'd been clinging to. For someone obsessed with applause, hearing rejection echo in a ballroom full of power players must have been devastating, like watching her carefully built image collapse in real time.
Nothing. And I don't think she would dare go to Oprah and say, look, you know,
The Hollywood Meghan once believed she could charm with nothing more than a smile and a pose was now booing her to her face. In that humiliating instant, the illusion of control she clung to shattered like glass under a stiletto heel. She thought she'd walk into that room and find allies, old friends, new admirers, people desperate to be linked to her brand. Instead, she walked straight into the lion's den. This wasn't just another party, this was Hollywood's inner circle. Its most celebrated actors, the directors who set the trends, the producers who decide whose star rises and whose career fades. And none of them were there to hand her credibility.
Failed projects, they're fobbing her off to their underlings.
That's right, this is coming...
Quite the opposite. They wanted nothing to do with her. The deeper she stepped into that ballroom, the colder it got. Witnesses say Zendaya, glowing as always and animated in conversation with stylists, spotted Meghan from the corner of her eye.
Out of the UK. Rita, this is a conversation you and I've had for years. I guess we could just say thank you for confirming what we've been telling you forever. And that's really that Harry and Meghan, the return...
What happened next looked almost rehearsed. Zendaya pivoted instantly, pulling her assistant into an exaggerated, deep exchange that clearly left no space for Meghan to insert herself. A graceful dodge, but one that stung like a slap. Then came Pedro Pascal, Hollywood's golden boy of the moment, laughing with colleagues one second, gone to the bar the next the moment Meghan edged into his orbit. Even stylists and journalists, the ones usually desperate for quotes, selfies, or a quick nod, suddenly found the floor, the walls, anything else more interesting than Meghan Markle. Avoiding eye contact became the silent strategy, as if looking at her might drag them into the very scandal they wanted to sidestep. The curtain had fallen, and Meghan wasn't on the stage. She was on the outside looking in. Accidental?
so she's not there. So that's a very, very big cross out amongst the grade A people where she lives. They've decided that she's...
One insider scoffed later. Not a chance. It was strategic, and that's what made the rejection so brutal. Nobody wanted to be photographed near her. Nobody wanted their name tied to hers. In Hollywood, association is pure currency, and Meghan's stock has crashed so low it's practically toxic. The snub was glaring. Not long ago, she could float into any room and bask in the glow of fawning smiles, hungry cameras, and eager introductions. But that night, her very presence was treated like a liability. Conversations shut down the second she approached. Chairs angled away.
You can understand it, but once you are like that, you've had it, mate. You know, it's very, very hard to climb back, you know.
It was a silent but very public freeze-out. This wasn't Meghan Markle, the rising actress, or Meghan the Duchess wrapped in royal mystique. This was Meghan, the unwanted guest, and Hollywood made sure she felt every inch of that cold shoulder. Her appearance at the HBO Max Emmy celebration wasn't some random cameo either. It was a calculated gamble. She and her team plotted it out to the minute. They knew where the cameras would be, what time the stars would arrive, and how much buzz could be milked from the room. She walked in expecting a headline-grabbing triumph.
I was talking to someone recently whose father was an executive at Paramount, and she was like, my father...
What she got instead was humiliation so loud, the boos are still echoing in whispers long after the party ended. To Meghan, this was supposed to be her golden chance. Stroll in, dazzle the cameras, reclaim the headlines, and prove she still mattered. But the plan had one glaring flaw. She had absolutely nothing to celebrate, nothing new to show off, and not even an invitation to justify barging into that room. The stunt reeked of desperation.
Endless mistakes. You're never going to get back there. And all the things that are failing as well. You know.
One producer was overheard whispering, "She really thinks she can just crash an Emmy party?" And that cut straight to the truth. This wasn't a red carpet photo op. This was an industry celebration. The night was about artistry, decades of scripts written, performances delivered, and creative visions that defined culture. Everyone in that ballroom had receipts. They had earned their spot. Meghan, meanwhile, walked in with nothing but fading tabloid buzz and a PR team that thought headlines could replace hard work.
Her personal relationships with the likes of Oprah Winfrey and Gayle King aren't what they were. So this is...
Her resume didn't help. A Spotify deal that collapsed in embarrassment, a podcast rebrand that couldn't find an audience, and Archewell's so-called lifestyle empire, so vague and muddled that even her own fans struggle to explain what it actually offers. In a room packed with Emmy winners, groundbreaking directors, and television icons, Meghan's brand looked paper-thin, a hollow image propped up by hype.
Netflix, everything is not working out because they haven't given it concentration, they're not skilled, but they think they know how to do everything, and people...
And the industry saw it instantly. She wasn't one of them. She was the outsider trying to sneak back in. Her presence didn't just feel hollow, it felt almost insulting. Instead of sparking curiosity or intrigue, Meghan's surprise entrance confirmed every whisper already circling her name. She wasn't a Hollywood power player anymore. She was a hanger-on, clawing desperately at a spotlight that had already moved on without her. What she thought would be a dazzling re-entry turned into the night's biggest embarrassment.
And that's it, basically. So she's had it, and it must absolutely upset her to the ceiling. Very hurtful.
The only headline she earned was the one she feared most. Meghan Markle isn't wanted. Her uninvited entrance threw the entire event into chaos. Insiders revealed that organizers had spent months perfecting every single detail. From table placements to the timing of photo ops to the strict security protocols ensuring only the industry's elite walked through those doors. The last thing they expected was a royal-turned-celebrity barging in without clearance, trying to hijack the night. But the second Meghan appeared, all that precision unraveled.
She's been after, she invited Oprah to the wedding, even though Oprah didn't know her, and she'd poured out all her anxiety about how badly she'd been treated.
Staff scrambled, whispers spread, and the seamless flow of Hollywood's most polished party started to crack. For a woman who once lived for curated perfection, Meghan became the chaos no one wanted in the room. And in Hollywood, that's the kiss of death. Because when the insiders label you a liability, the doors don't just close, they slam shut. Eyewitnesses remember the chaos at the entrance. Security guards huddled together, their eyes darting between Meghan and their tablets as they frantically scrolled through the digital guest list.
nothing like relatability for the world.
One frazzled coordinator reportedly muttered into his headset, "She's not on the list. Triple check it." The tension was suffocating. Do they drag her out in front of Hollywood's A-list and risk a viral meltdown? Or do they let her slip in and quietly contain the fallout? Either way, it was a nightmare scenario nobody wanted on their hands.
Yes. It's a hard world out there.
It is, and the suggestion, Angela Levin, is that, as you just saw there,
After a whispered back and forth, the verdict came down. Avoid a public spectacle, but strip her of power. Meghan wasn't thrown out, but she was clipped. She was quietly guided to a seat, shoved near the exit corridor, far away from the stage, the cameras, and the heavy hitters. While Emmy nominees raised champagne flutes to roaring applause, Meghan was discreetly handed a plain glass of water. No red carpet, no official press shots, no PR perks. She was technically there, but stripped of every privilege that defined the night's glittering elite.
are out on purpose to send a message to the entertainment industry that Meghan Markle is no longer in our...
And make no mistake, it was intentional. An insider confirmed bluntly, she wasn't treated like a guest. She was treated like a problem for Meghan. That was worse than being physically removed. The humiliation wasn't just in the booze. It was in the way she was sidelined, diminished, and made irrelevant in a room she once dreamed of dominating. What stung even more? The sheer unity of it all. Hollywood is a town built on facades, fake smiles, empty compliments, and handshakes that mean nothing.
Where Oprah walked in late. Do you remember once Meghan was already on stage and Meghan seemed very sort of annoyed about that? Or at the Paley Center honors because they're both friends.
But that night, the masks dropped. No one even pretended. Meghan wasn't just ignored, she was collectively rejected. And in a city obsessed with appearances, that silence screamed the loudest. Hollywood usually plays the game. Flash a smile, pose for the cameras, fake the friendliness even if you secretly can't stand the person beside you. But that night was different. Meghan Markle didn't just face a few awkward glances. She faced an entire ballroom silently agreeing on one thing.
The insider list. This was the circle of the close friends, and it was all over Instagram. So
we're not doing this with her. There were no smiles thrown her way, no polite clapping, not even the bare minimum of Hollywood small talk. Instead, it was whispers behind glasses, rolled eyes exchanged across tables, and cold stares that cut sharper than words ever could. One attendee later revealed the unspoken pact. Nobody wanted to give her oxygen, no attention, no validation.
Still in this circle, so it is mortifying for her.
It is mortifying, actually. I mean, as you say, if they come...
The chaos of booze that had erupted earlier melted into something quieter, but deadlier: indifference. And in Hollywood, indifference is the cruelest weapon of all. Conversations picked up again, but purposefully without her. Bodies shifted so backs faced her table. Photographers deliberately skipped her as if she wasn't even in the room. Nominees toasted champagne, cameras flashed, laughter echoed.
Something. But if you're coming on a social visit because you've got a friend having a party and you want everything to be lovely for her, him, it's...
And Meghan sat isolated, erased in plain sight. That was the message. Hollywood didn't need to issue press statements or plant headlines. They had already spoken, and their verdict was brutal. Meghan Markle wasn't just unwelcome, she was invisible. And in that glittering ballroom, Meghan Markle was slapped with the harshest truth of all. Her star power hadn't just dimmed, it had already burned out. The moment she realized it, the illusion shattered. If things had gone her way, the morning after the Emmy nominee celebration would have been splashed with glossy headlines and glamorous photos. Meghan Markle's stuns and surprise appearance.
You can't give anything out of that. You could wish that you would make people laugh. You would smile them to the other end of the room and enjoy, everything about it. But she wasn't given the chance even to say hello and give them...
She probably pictured paparazzi shots flooding Instagram, her name trending, critics silenced by her so-called Hollywood comeback. But instead, she faced the most vicious punishment Hollywood can hand out: erasure. Event organizers and HBO Max producers wasted no time. Meghan's name was scrubbed from official press releases, and her face was nowhere to be seen in the glossy recap galleries. Getty, Shutterstock, and agency photographers circulated their star-studded shots to the world.
Royal family either, because you just know that these Americans, these big...
Zendaya, Pedro Pascal, Emmy winners locked in champagne toasts. But Meghan, cropped out, blurred in the background, or left on the cutting room floor like she was never there. Even when cameras had caught her in the room, the images were carefully cropped or quietly shelved. Her team, in damage control mode, tried pushing their own strategically lit photos to the wire services the next morning, hoping to manufacture the illusion that she belonged. But agencies flat out declined. One publicist explained it bluntly.
A dust of royalty. It's one of the reasons why Prince Andrew used to be invited to so many parties. But Harry and Meghan are no longer really considered part of the British royal family now.
No, I mean, one reason is that
Nobody wanted to run Meghan's photos from an event she wasn't invited to. It would look like an endorsement, and nobody wants that liability. For Meghan, it was brutal irony. She had built her entire post-royal career on curating optics, carefully staged photos, the illusion of relevance, the idea that she could bend media to her will. But Hollywood had flipped the script. For the first time, the cameras didn't care. And without the cameras, Meghan Markle was invisible.
That Meghan wants to maybe distance herself from that. You know, she does have a cooking show coming out.
From Netflix documentaries to carefully handpicked interviews, Meghan had always managed to spin the story in her favor. But this time, there was no spin. Hollywood didn't just boo her in real time. They erased her as if she had never walked through those Emmy doors at all. And for someone who lives and breathes relevance, invisibility wasn't just cruel, it was devastating humiliation. The whispers about her dwindling star power were already swirling long before that night.
So I think while she wants to go down the whole kind of lifestyle brand.
The failed Spotify deal had been a global embarrassment, a reminder that hype doesn't equal substance. Her much-touted podcast rebrand under Lemon Media, struggling to find an audience and fading fast. And then there's her so-called lifestyle brand, vague, directionless, a project so confusing that even her own supporters can't explain what it actually offers.
And actually, you know, when we look at them, you know, their quasi-royal tours that they've taken part in, you know, what do they...
To the industry, it screamed one thing. Meghan needed a win, badly, and she thought the Emmys could hand it to her. But her sudden entrance wasn't about celebrating artistry or honoring television's finest achievements. It was about clawing her way back into a conversation that had already moved on. She wanted proximity to relevance, the illusion that she still belonged in Hollywood's inner circle.
Just represent themselves. All they're doing is visiting disadvantaged areas and preaching virtue signaling slogans. You know, they're not
Yet insiders were blunt. If she couldn't earn a seat at the table through work, she tried to create one by showing up. And the industry's A-list saw right through it. They didn't see a star. They saw desperation in heels. And they shut the door without hesitation. Her calculated smile, the stiff posture, even the dramatic black gown, it all screamed of someone desperately trying to wedge themselves into a narrative that had already moved on without them.
Apart from talking about their philanthropic efforts, which are just them preaching to the world, really.
Meghan Markle has always thrived in environments she could control, from the glossy Netflix docuseries to the carefully edited Oprah sit-down, where every angle was curated to present her as untouchable.
And that haven't proven that they are creative, that they're hard workers. Additionally, when I talked to a publicist a few weeks ago.
But the Emmy nominee celebration wasn't her stage, it was Hollywood's. And in that space, Meghan had no script to follow, no protective team of producers shielding her, no editing room to cut out the awkward silence. What unfolded was raw, unscripted, and brutal. And for once, Meghan couldn't spin her way out of it. Insiders are already calling her crashing scandal one of the worst PR disasters of her post-royal career. In an industry where image is everything, the humiliation wasn't just another bad night.
Celebrity client. And I said, well, hey, I'm doing this story on Harry and Meghan. Would they like to be involved? And that publicist said, we don't want to touch anything Harry and Meghan related. It's too...
It was a turning point. Hollywood doesn't forget. And Hollywood doesn't forgive when someone tries to hijack their spotlight without the work to back it up. Meghan tried to crash the party, but the only thing she walked away with was humiliation. And if this was meant to be her grand Hollywood comeback, then let's be real. It flopped harder than anyone thought possible. Yet, if you want more breakdowns of scandals Hollywood doesn't want you to see, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.